From 1900 to 1925, there was a place called Wineville, California. It was a sleepy rural town, the kind of place where nothing ever happened and folks thought it was the best spot to raise kids far away from the crime and chaos of big cities. But in 1926, everything changed. A man from Canada arrived and didn't just ruin the town. He destroyed its very innocence. He targeted children so ruthlessly that the town's reputation was permanently scarred. Eventually, they had to change the name from Wineville to Mira Loma just to escape the stigma. This dark chapter of history is what gave us the haunting movie Changeling. Our story begins on November 9th, 1906 in a tiny village named Bladworth in Saskatchewan, Canada. That was the year Gordon Stewart Northcott was born. He didn't stay in Canada for long. His parents, Cyrus and Sarah Northcott, took him and his older sister Louisa to Britain, where he grew up. Gordon's childhood is a black hole of information, but we know it was a nightmare, raised in a deeply dysfunctional and broken home. In 1924, when Gordon was about 17, the family moved from Britain to Los Angeles looking for a better life. But as soon as they hit LA, Gordon's predatory nature surfaced. He would prowl the streets in his car, picking up children and sexually assaulting them. No one knows exactly how he lured them in, but he did it for an entire year. In 1925, he was finally caught red-handed kidnapping a 12-year-old boy. Here's the crazy part. He wasn't jailed. The judge looked him in the eye and said, "Listen, Gordon, if you do this again, you're in big trouble. Don't let me see you in this courtroom ever again." And that was it. He walked home free. No punishment, no nothing. In 1926, now 19 years old, Gordon convinced his father to buy a small plot of land in Wineville, about 45 miles east of Los Angeles. Back then, Wineville was just a quiet farming community. Gordon moved into the poultry ranch alone, while his parents stayed in LA, though his mother visited often. To the outside world, it was just a normal farm. But Gordon had a blueprint for horror, an isolated place where no one could hear the screams. He was planning to become the most terrifying serial killer of young boys in history. Gordon soon realized the ranch was too big to manage alone if he wanted it to look like a legitimate business. He needed someone he could control. In late 1926, he went back to Canada to visit his sister Louisa. He manipulated her into letting her 13-year-old son, Sanford Clark, go with him to America to help on the farm. The moment Sanford arrived at the ranch, the nightmare began. He became his uncle's first prisoner. Gordon assaulted him repeatedly, kept him chained up for days in the chicken coop, and forced him to sleep in the filth with the birds. Beyond the sexual violence, Gordon beat him daily. He took pleasure in Sanford's cries and blood. Sanford was trapped. He was only allowed to write to his mother under Gordon's strict supervision. Gordon would dictate the letters, making the boy write that he was happy, healthy, and doing great, all while a threat of death hung over his head. Sanford lived like this for 2 long years, isolated from the world. Meanwhile, Gordon was going into LA, knocking on doors and asking teenage boys if they wanted to earn money working on a ranch. Those who said yes were never seen again. On Thursday, February 2nd, 1928, Gordon murdered a Mexican teenager named Alvin Gutierrez. Even today, his exact age is debated. Some say 17 or 18. Gordon shot him with a .22 caliber pistol, stripped him naked, and stuffed him in a feed bag. Gordon then decapitated the boy and dumped the headless torso on a road near La Puente. He took the head back to the ranch just to show it to Sanford and terrify him, claiming he killed the boy because he knew too much. He then burned the head and clothes, and when the skull wouldn't turn to ash, he used an axe to smash it into tiny fragments and scattered the bones across the ranch. On Saturday, March 10th, 1928, a woman named Christine Collins gave her 9-year-old son, Walter, some money to go to the movies. She never saw him again. Gordon had snatched him and locked him in the chicken coop. For days, Walter was assaulted and beaten, crying out for his mother, while Gordon ignored him. Christine was frantic. She stood up to the system and shamed the police for their incompetence. At the time, the LAPD was under massive pressure due to corruption and the recent brutal murder of Marion Parker by William Hickman. They needed a win. 5 months after Walter vanished, the police called Christine and said, "We found him. Come get your son." Christine rushed to the station, but when she saw the boy, she froze. "This isn't my son," she said. The police captain literally told her, "Of course it is. He's just changed after 5 months. Take him home and try him out." They closed the case and called themselves heroes. 3 weeks later, Christine returned with Walter's dental records to prove the boy was an imposter. The police's response? They threw her into a psychiatric ward, accusing her of being a nuisance to authority. The imposter was actually a runaway named Arthur who just wanted to get to Hollywood. Back at the ranch, Gordon's mother, Sarah, showed up unannounced. She heard screams from the coop and saw Walter tied up. Instead of saving him, she told Gordon, "You have to get rid of this child. He has to die." Gordon, Sarah, and a terrified Sanford gathered in the coop. They tied Walter to a chair. Under Gordon's threat, Sanford was forced to take the first swing with an axe. Then Gordon took the axe, and finally, Sarah delivered the killing blow to the boy's head. They buried him in a pit and covered the body with quicklime to accelerate decomposition. But Gordon wasn't done. On Wednesday, May 16, 1928, he kidnapped two brothers, Louis Winslow, 12, and Nelson Winslow, 10. He held them for a week, assaulting them in front of each other while Sanford watched them huddle together, sobbing. Gordon forced Louis to write a letter saying they were going to Mexico to dig for gold. Then, Gordon killed Nelson and forced Sanford to kill Louis with an axe. They were buried and covered in quicklime and straw. The real hero is Jessie, Sanford's sister. She noticed spelling errors and a strange tone in Sanford's letters. In August 1928, she traveled to California to see for herself. Sanford broke down and confessed everything, the abuse and the murders. Jessie went to the American consulate and reported that there were illegal immigrants at the ranch to get them to move fast. On Friday, August 31st, 1928, immigration officials raided the farm. Gordon fled, telling Sanford, "Delay them or I'll shoot you if they catch me." Sanford was taken into custody and told the authorities every dark secret. On September 17th, police dug up the ranch and found 51 human bone fragments, children's fingers, blood-stained axes, and clothes matching the Winslow brothers. They couldn't find Walter's body because it had been moved carefully, but Sanford identified Walter from photos and confirmed his murder. Gordon and Sarah were caught in Canada on September 19th. Gordon was a narcissist who played for the cameras, laughing and eventually confessing to killing as many as 20 children, though he drew fake maps of bodies just to mock the police. Sarah finally confessed to killing Walter Collins. She was sentenced to life in prison. Gordon was sentenced to death on February 13th, 1929. He spent 20 months on death row, acting cold and laughing with guards. Before his execution, he summoned the mothers of Walter and the Winslow brothers, promising to tell the truth. When they arrived, he danced and sang in front of them, then finally said, "I didn't do anything," and walked away. On Thursday, October 2nd, 1930, the time for the noose came. The tough killer turned into a shivering, weeping coward. He asked the guards, "Is it going to hurt?" As they led him to the gallows, he screamed, "Don't hang me!" When the trapdoor opened, his neck didn't break. He spent 11 agonizing minutes strangling to death. He was 23. Sanford was deemed a victim and spent 5 years in a reformatory. He later married, but struggled with depression his whole life, passing away in 1991 at age 78. Christine Collins never accepted Walter was dead. Because his body was never officially recovered, she spent the rest of her life hoping that one day her boy would walk through the door.